All right, so now here we are. We've done our analysis, etc. We're ready to start answering the question. Let's start with task number 1. So what do we do? Well, first of all, we do it underneath our analysis of that task. Okay, we just put it the headline in there, task 1, and put in an answer so that the marker rather, knows that this is your answer. It's not a plan. You're asked for a report, so make sure you give a report format. Well, what does that look like? Well, what I recommend is the following. Whatever format you're asked for, just do from, to, date, and subject. All right, from, to, date, and subject. Just copy paste that, whatever the format is. On the top, you can write report, you can write briefing paper, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it just saves a lot of time. Just have a standard structure. The only thing to remember is that with a report, you must have an introduction and you must have a conclusion. Okay? With a report, you must have an introduction and a conclusion or recommendation. If the question asks you to recommend something, then you call it a recommendation, otherwise you call it a conclusion. Now, what do you write in your introduction? Well, again, a really good technique to save time is to simply copy paste from the task, right? So what does the task ask us to do? Well, part A says analyzes the current strategic position in the context of proposed new direction. So I just copy paste that here. This report analyzes the current strategic in the context of the new strategic direction, and then in part B it says evaluates the suitability, feasibility, and acceptability of the proposed new strategic direction, and I just copy paste that and edit the words a little bit. And there is my introduction. Fast. Okay. Next thing, how many points do I need to make in my answer to part A? Well, there are 8 marks. And so we said before there are 4 points. So I have made these 4 points here. Okay. And what I'm going to do to make it easier to see that there are four distinct points is put some space between them. All right. Now, what I've done here, and basically this is to save time. But please remember that in the examination, each point needs to earn you 2 marks, which means that you need to state your point, explain your point, and apply your point. And it means that you have 3.6 minutes in which to write it. Here, I've kept my points very short, deliberately, but I'm highlighting it. So let me show you what I mean and how we might change this into a longer 2-mark point. Thirst Aid is the world's largest water supply charity. It has a strong reputation for reliability and effectiveness. Both of these will facilitate the raising of funds necessary for these longer projects. Okay, so this, as I say, it's not a full 2-mark answer, not at all. Okay. So how do you make it into a 2-mark answer? You state, explain, apply. So Thirst Aid is the world's largest water supply charity. You're simply stating a fact. There is nothing new there. It comes straight out of the question. That means it has a strong reputation for reliability and effectiveness. So that is an explanation, okay? It became the world's largest charity, water supply charity, because it has a strong reputation. Okay, so you might have written here, this was achieved by its strong reputation for reliability and effectiveness. It also suggests that Thirst Aid has a large and established network of donors network of donors who trust the state enough to donate. It should be work. There you go. So because of that, right, when they think about their new direction, because of their reputation, because of their establishment of donors, it's likely to mean that they will find it easier to raise the funds for the new direction, strategic direction. Okay, so how would you make this last sentence here an application? So this is an explanation. The second bit is an explanation. So how do you apply it to the question? You say, look, the new strategic direction will require, or will be comprised of long-term infrastructure projects. These will demand access to long-term financing. The existing donor base are more likely, due to existing relationships, or due to the existing relationships, to provide this long-term working capital This may be seen as an opportunity that Third State can exploit. In its new strategy. That's application. Alright, so you see the difference. So I'm going to get rid of my earlier point here. That is worth 2 marks. Okay, so state is the first sentence, explain is the next sentence, and the application is what is going to earn you that second mark. And that is how you need to write all of your answers. Now, as I say, to save time, I haven't done that for all of the points that I have made, but I've shown you about the state, explain, apply approach, how much you need to say, what you need to say, and how long you have in which to say it. So for task number 1, what other advantages did I talk about? It has know-how with regard to water-based disasters. Yes, they've been around a long time. Okay, they have contacts and so on. And so getting used to, excuse me, getting used to, the new direction, okay, will be fast. So those are both strengths, if you like, but then I talk about a weakness, an internal weakness, a lack of engineering expertise, and it'll take time to gather that, find the people and so on. That will cost money. Additionally, all of our projects have been short-term. We don't have experience of working capital, sustain long-term projects of which the experience or working capital to sustain long-term projects which a new direction will involve. Yeah, so we're good at working on short-term projects, but don't know how good we will be on long-term projects where people have to be away from home for, maybe weeks on end, maybe months on end. Part B, as I suggested earlier, we're going to use the words in the question as subheadings. Okay, so suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. What does it mean? Suitability examines the underlying rationale of the new strategy, whether it makes sense. Okay, so that's statement. The answer to this must be in the affirmative because, okay, so let's remind ourselves what the question is. It evaluates the suitability of the proposed new direction, right? The proposed new direction is putting in the infrastructure, yes, when a disaster happens. So the answer to this must be in the affirmative because developing long-term water solutions fits with TA's mission statement to provide water to communities in crisis. So here we are talking about suitability, but also bringing in some information from another exhibit. Okay, and that is what the marker wants to see. The marker expects, and the examiner expects, that your answer combines data or information from different exhibits as you would in the real world. It's not that all your answers to problems in the real world are in one place. They are never like that. And so when you use more than one exhibit to create your answer in SPL, then you get credit for doing that. So I've done that here by talking about more than one exhibit. Okay. Developing long-term water fits with TA's mission. Additionally, the relationships with governments, people on the ground, fixers, donors, and others will facilitate the success of the new strategic direction. So we've already got a network on the ground, and that's going to help us with our new direction. It's because a new strategy will be implemented in the same countries where TA already operates, making it a viable strategic direction. Okay, there you go. Now, how many points do we need to make on this one? Part B, well, we need to make 6 points. Okay, so basically we need to make 2 points under each of these 3 headings: suitability, acceptability, and feasibility. And so my first point is that those first 2 sentences. My second point, okay, is those sentences here. Now remember again, these are shortened to save time, but you would expand them to earn your 2 marks. Acceptability, likely to be highly acceptable to a range of stakeholders, primarily to those who are suffering water shortages and for whom sustainable solutions are slow to appear, which is something that you're told in the exhibits, right? And the second point is also national governments in these countries will benefit from the external finance and know-how support being offered. Many of these countries are less developed with limited resources. Also, latest engineering expertise could be gathered and used in other parts of the country to provide sustainable water supplies. So it'll be acceptable to these 2 main stakeholder groups for these reasons. Feasibility criterion relates to the availability of resources for the new direction, and here is where TA will suffer some lacks. Firstly, in terms of financial resource necessary for working capital for longer projects and engineering expertise. Clearly, these will need to be found through government grants and other donors, and there is no guarantee that it will be forthcoming, right? So that's a risk. In addition, volunteers and other employees will need to be taken on if both short and long-term projects are to be completed side by side. So we're going to need a lot more people In summary, therefore, close attention must be paid to the availability of funding before launching the new strategy. We need the money. And then we have the conclusion. The conclusion doesn't have to be anything, deep and clever and meaningful. Just have one and keep it short. Okay, so my conclusion, new direction is viable. TA has many competencies which support its achievement. However, TA must develop effective funding sources before launching. Okay, keep it simple, keep it short. Okay, it doesn't matter what you say. If you were to say the new direction is not viable, that's fine. Okay, as long as you've justified that in your report, you will get the marks. And that is how you would answer task 1. Now, I'm not going to go through all the other tasks in as much detail, but I will show you what the answers should look like, what they should include. Okay, you will have hard copy and soft copy. Well, you'll probably be given soft copy or have soft copy available, which you'll be able to use to look at the answers in more detail. Okay, and you can link them to this video or these videos if you need to. All right, but that is really all the points that I've made here are the key points that I'll be applying for all of the other tasks.